So this will probably be a pretty quick one, but it was something that popped in my head that kind of made me feel better and helped me move forward. So maybe this might be the thing that pops in your head that helps you move forward. But so what was happening was I had a lot of things. I do have a lot of things going on in my business. We're expanding. We're moving to a bigger location in Vegas. I'm going to talk about that stuff probably on our Instagram, Machine Studio. But, there's a couple different things, a lot of different things, actually. I'm trying to hire more people. I'm trying to do all these kind of things at the same time, like refining systems and doing all this kind of shit, buying new equipment. I got equipment with problems that need to be fixed. And so that's just one aspect of things that are kind of overwhelming me. And then there's all the other shit that I have sort of set up for myself. Like I'm doing marketing for my company. I got this podcast. I got this, I got that. I'm making content, doing all these things. And at one point I was sitting on my couch and I was really overwhelmed and I hadn't been sleeping very good. I still haven't really been sleeping super good. And this sort of happens when I get stressed out and I get a little overwhelmed. My sleep starts to suffer a bit. And I'm sure that's not abnormal, but so the whole point though is that at one point it got to it reached a level to where I started feeling a little bit crippled. I started feeling a little bit like, there's a little voice that comes into my head that's just like, I don't know. I don't want to misrepresent what it is because I'm not really like a give up kind of person. Like I'll move on from something if I don't think it's going to work, but I don't quit very easily. And I'm kind of stubborn in that way. So it wasn't really that, but at the same time, it was like this sort of overwhelming feeling that like, I just didn't want to participate in all the shit that I had to do. It was like, I just wanted to sit this one out, but it's not an option. There's too much to do and too many things that would fall apart if I did that. And I'm sure I could probably take a little break, like a short 1 day or something, a day or two, maybe. But at the same time, at this point right now, with the amount of shit that I have to do before the year's over, even within the next couple of months, within this month of October, I have a lot of things I have to accomplish in order to stay on track. So it's like, if I were to say, I'm going to take a little break and kind of collect myself or whatever the fuck, I know me and I would be stressed out the whole time. So I wouldn't really be taking a break. My brain would still be firing at full speed. So I don't think I would actually get anything out of that other than adding more stress because I'd be a couple more days behind. So anyway, as I'm sitting there and I'm a little bit overwhelmed and a lot overwhelmed and, I'm just not happy and all this kind of shit. That whole concept that I read it was in both, I believe they were in both, Dichotomy of Leadership and Extreme Ownership, where they cover the laws of combat and they apply those to business. And one of the laws of combat is prioritize and execute. And that's something that we've been using in our business for quite a while. And it's it doesn't really require any explanation because it's in the title of the thing, of the law. So it's find the priority, execute on it. And then the next thing you move on. So we applied that to our business. And there was one thing that I can remember that when we were printing a lot of stickers, I was telling the guys, like, look, we got to keep the machines running at all times. And so what ended up happening was they were following that order. So they were keeping the machines running at all times. The problem is the printer prints faster than the cutter can cut. And so we were piling up all of this shit. So we ended up with like all these big, huge sheets of stickers that were waiting for a cutter to be available. And then there was all these bottlenecks happening and things were getting really messy. And there was like sheets of stickers kind of laying all around the studio. And then they were kind of getting a little beat up. This was years ago. We stopped doing this a long time ago. But that's when I implemented, that's when the first time I remember implementing it as a rule in my business was like, look, instead of trying to keep the printers running at all times, we need to prioritize the job that needs to get done, execute on the job, get it done, and then move on to the next one instead of like piling up all of this shit. And so it was causing a lot of stress when we had all these jobs that were piled up and we didn't have enough enough cutters to cut them fast enough and all this kind of shit. So that's like a kind of a weird offshoot example. But so for me, I was sitting on the couch and I was like wanting to kind of tap out for a day or two or something. And it wasn't really an option. And so that's when that idea popped back in my head. And I was like, look, the mistake that I was making was thinking about everything all at once. And I think it's really common knowledge that you can't really do that because you get overwhelmed. But I think as humans, we just tend to forget about that stuff, and our brain maybe is kind of wired like that, or I don't know how it works, but just, shit just starts piling up, and before you know it, you're thinking about everything, and you can't really get a whole lot done if you're trying to do little things of all these different things. You're not really finishing anything, so that's very counterproductive. So I don't know. As soon as I started thinking about that, I started feeling better because it was like I just got out my notebook and I was like, okay, what's the most important thing I need to handle right now? And I think I talked about this on the show, a thinking session. I really like doing that where I don't use any technology. Like I don't use my phone or computer or anything. I just have a notebook and a pen and I'll just think through. So I did a thinking session on what the priorities are. Like, well, you can only have one at a time, priority. But what's the first thing I need to get done? So I just started trying to figure all that stuff out. I was listing all the things that I had to get done and then finding what's the best thing to get done first. So you prioritize that thing, execute on it, you check that off your list, and you move on to the next thing. I know it's a short one and simple one, but, having that pop back into my head was really helpful, and it took a lot of stress off of me. So maybe you're overwhelmed with something and it may pop into your head by listening to this, and you might start looking at things a little bit different. So that's it. That's all I got. I will see you next week. All right. Good.
Appreciate each and every one of you guys who are supporting the cause and continue to spread the love. And stay up.